everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we're back again today because we're going to talk about, yes, you guessed it, another Star Trek book. And today we're diving into the world of Deep Space Nine, of course, continuing on with our Peter David book trek. This time we've got the old trifecta, right? We've got Peter David, Michael Jan Friedman, and Robert Greenberger all pitching in for what is the 20th installment of the Deep Space Nine numbered series, The Wrath of the Prophets. And as you can see from the cover here, which we can make a little bit bigger so that we can fully appreciate the Keith Birdsong art here, we have an adventure that will have Kira and Ro. Whoa! So that's exciting, right? From the cover, of course, can Ro Laren save Bajor from a deadly plague? Well, we will certainly find out. So, let's just jump right into it here. Reading together for the first time, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Wrath of the Prophets. When a fatal disease spreads over Bajor, threatening the entire planet with extinction, Captain Sisko must accept aid from an unexpected source. Ro Laren, Starfleet officer turned Maquis renegade. Major Kira and Ro would reluctantly join forces to track the alien plague to its source, even as the disease claims new victims on Deep Space Nine itself. Dr. Bashir struggles to find a cure, but the secret of the virulent invader may hide deep in the shadows of Dax's past. What? Wow. Okay. That's a pretty good back cover because it really doesn't give away anything, doesn't give away any of the surprises or anything like that. And, does a good job of getting you interested, so that's not too bad. Now, we can also find some more information here in the giant book of books here, the Voyages of the Imagination. And we do have, and it looks like they were talking to Robert Greenberger here, and he recalled, following their collaborations for Star Trek and The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine was another obvious opportunity for Peter, Mike, and him to work together. I believe Peter had the idea that became the core of the story, and then I suggested using Varys Saul, who was introduced in a first season episode. I got assigned the Dax Bashir subplot, which didn't thrill me because medical stories aren't my forte, and I figured Mike would do that since he wrote so much McCoy material. Nope, he had done enough medical stories at the time and wanted Sisko. So I did my best and grew to enjoy the characters. By this time, we knew each other's styles and strengths well enough that there was very little smoothing over required. In the finished book, there's a mention of a Voyager novel forthcoming. What happened? Robert replied, Mike and I were keen to tackle Voyager to see if a good story could be done. Peter was less enthused, but would go along if John wanted to do it. John didn't, so it never materialized. Well, there you have it. So it gives you a little bit of idea of, and I didn't read this beforehand, which was good. And I didn't want to do that because I think when you read these books that have multiple authors, there is one of the fun parts is trying to guess which author played, which part, which, what they did, what they influenced the most, basically. And actually, I had it in my mind that Peter David did the Sisko part of this adventure. And maybe he didn't write all of it, but there have to be parts that he came up with, and we'll get into that later, that are just so Peter David that I was like, this is his signature right here. So, it is I guess it isn't just a Ro and Kira book, of course. It is divided into 3 kind of separate but intertwined adventures, right? You've got Ro and Kira. They are kind of they're on the track. They're trying to track down the source of the virus. So they're going from A to B to C to D, trying to figure things out and getting into trouble and, finding mysteries and stuff along the way. So now Sisko, he gets a fun little team up with Quark in this one, and that's when they go to this, hold on, I wrote it down. I really did write it down, everyone. Methyltrantus, which is like this crazy planet out or space station. I didn't write that down. Anyway, basically, this place where kind of the outlaws all gather. So they're going there to gather information. And that's where I thought really that the Peter David stuff took in, or Peter David wrote that part, because of just all of the, like the telltale signs. One of the name of the kind of the villain that they track down there is Calculanthra. Like, come on, that's right out of a Peter David book. Anyway, they all work together to make this book. So, and then the final story was kind of split between Miles and Dax. Miles kind of struggling with his wife and daughter being away on Bajor so much, and then Dax struggling with something you don't know, kind of like a mystery thing that happens until the end. So between those 6 characters, that's where your story kind of gets spread out. And I suppose, just for the sake, because they're on the cover, I would say, maybe they get the most of the story. But maybe you're looking at 40% to 30% to 30%, right? All in all, it's not a... I'm saying this because I'm off the heels of reading all the Double Helix books. And all of those books kind of were heavy into the medical side. And truthfully, it's not a book that goes deep into that side of it. It's basically, yes, there is an illness, yes, it's killing people, but they don't go into much about it, really, other than they're working to solve it. So it's not really something like that, and you don't have a lot of Dr. Bashir trying to solve the problem kind of scenes. It really all comes from other, other angles, So there are a fair amount of good action scenes in it. You've got a lot of fun stuff that Cisco and Quark get into on this space station, which was really good. Some good space scenes as they escape from the space station. And then the whole thing that Kira and Ro get into. Oh, and they have this great little banter, too, back and forth, that kind of develops over the course of the book as well. And I think that was really well done. So, all in all, another hit for me. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking about it if I didn't like it. That would just be weird. I wouldn't do that. So, you should always know that every book that I ever talk about on this channel is a book that I liked. So, let me just put that out there right away. So, how much did we like this one? We liked this one a lot. It was a lot of fun. And, again, it's just... Maybe it's because I read the other ones by these guys recently, and it's just fun to, again, read like a big collaboration. And it's a collaboration by 3 guys who know what they're doing, who have each singly written so many books in this universe that I've enjoyed. So it's like, it's like they're getting together and they're having a little party, and I'm here to enjoy part of that party with them. So, all right, we'll put the book down, and then we'll continue to talk more with our hands as we go on here. So, okay, so if you don't want any spoilers, you can go ahead and stop it right there, and we'll see you next time. But let's just get into some of the fun stuff that happened in here. I took notes. I took some notes here. Look at this. We've got barely any pages left in this thing. And then I've actually wrote notes for like that many Star Trek books. That's crazy to me. I didn't take that many notes in school. Anyway, the book starts out with the character Varys Sol, and the name wasn't immediately familiar to me, but then I kind of did a little bit of digging, and she was a first season character who Jake and Nog kind of helped out, and then she, solves some trouble with her village, and basically she's in charge of this small village on Bajor, and there's trouble. They need food, so she gets a hold of some black market replicators, does some kind of shady stuff, basically, but gets the replicators, but unfortunately, there's something wrong with them, and through the replicators, this infection is spread, and that's how kind of things start. Back on the station, you got Miles O'Brien, and he is excited because his daughter and wife have come back. And in like a previous episode, I think, is when they actually see them leave to go away for this whatever it is that she was doing on Bajor. But she comes back, and they're very excited. He's got a nice dinner. But then she immediately announces that she wants to go back to Bajor to be a part of this special study, so that she can feel useful and, do something like that. So you start out with that little bit of kind of conflict between them, and you don't really know how that's going to work out. And it kind of sets the stage for, his story and his attitude, throughout the whole thing. So, as they find out about this virus, and they kind of set apart on their different missions here. Well, first off, as they, everything starts kind of falling apart, and they're tasked to go for it. Of course, down on the planet, you got Kai Wynn causing some kind of mischief, right? And she works or is talking with one of her subordinates, and they kind of basically decide that what's happening is the wrath of the prophets, right? You gotta love it when they say the title of the book in the book. I think they said it like multiple times, probably 10 times, right? The wrath of the prophets is kind of what the Bajorans are now calling this virus, because they, and some are saying because they allowed too many, off-worlders to stay on the planet. So you've got this, and that, that theme doesn't really come up too much in the book, to be honest with you. It's almost like, kind of like a bookend. And in the same way that the Miles and Keiko story is like a bookend as well, too. Because it's something that kind of comes up in the beginning and then comes up again in the end. Like bookends. Alright, anyway. So you've got Ro Laren approaching the station, right? And she wants to help. And she is currently a member of the Maquis, so they're like, no, we really can't do that. But Sisko decides that, it would be in everybody's best interest. She wants to help. She has information. She has contacts on the black market, possibly. So he sends Kira to work with her. Again, which I said earlier, is a part of a very fun team up, because they're like kind of bristling off each other at first, but then, eventually they kind of get to like a grudging respect in the end, which is fun. And there's a fun part in the beginning of their story where she says something like, if not for a turn of fate, you could have been me, or I could have been you. And that's, it's funny and written in there, of course, because Michelle Forbes, who plays Ro Laren, was, I think, offered the part, or could have been on Deep Space Nine, but she turned it down, which led to brain malfunction, which led to Kira Nerys' character being, on Deep Space Nine instead. Hold on. A Nana Visitor. I knew that. Nana Visitor. Anyway, forgive me. So their story leads them throughout Bajor, basically, from... And it's an interesting story, too. I like, because it kind of takes her, this is Kira, on her, she's going back to all of her old contacts, and her old, rebel, people, and they're fighting against the Cardassians, and each one of these people is turning out to be, they've kind of gone to the dark side, for lack of a better term. The first guy they visit, he basically is working with the black market to like sell things. They're all kind of have become corrupt. They've seen a way to gain power, to gain money, and they've taken that. So, and she becomes kind of jaded as each one of her old contacts that she meets disappoints her in this same way. And I thought that was a very interesting storyline for her, as she had all these kind of old heroes and friends just turn out to be, just as bad as all these other people that she hates, right? So that was really good. As far as Sisko's part, he recruits him, he recruits Quark to come with him to, again, Methyl Trantos, and I'm going to say it's a big space station kind of out far away, close to Orion territory maybe, and where all the the black market traders and that kind of stuff meet up to work their deals. So Quark, wants him to try to do it his way at first, and Cisco is going to try to do it another way, and they agree to try Quark's way. And Quark's way apparently is just trying to play Dabo, and he's down there playing a lot of Dabo, and apparently doing very well as well. So it's not really getting them anywhere. They get into some trouble. They get into some fights. There's there's a pretty funny scene, which I really thought, like I said, this just reeked of Peter David to me, where they're going into the main guy's bar, casino, whatever, and Cisco just yells out his name at the top of his lungs. He's like, Calculanthra, to get everybody's attention. And then Quark is just like cringing over there in the corner, right? So their storyline comes to a decent conclusion. They're able to kind of threaten and cajole their way through. Even Quark is able to do his part as well. He kind of saves Cisco's butt at a certain point in time by hanging onto a guy's leg and biting his leg. But he does his part as well in getting the information they need. Again, you have lots of kind of fun scenes on that space station, action scenes like that. And then as they escape from the space station and think they're kind of in the clear, this dude comes after them, so they have a nice little escape scene where Cisco shows off his skills and they're able to take care of this guy, right? Back on the station, you finally kind of learn what's going on with Dax. And this happens after Miles finds out that his daughter is now infected with this virus. And it turns out it's not just Bajorans, it can be spread to other people too, as now Morn on the station is also infected with this virus. So it's become a larger problem. They're now having to deal with it, again, on the station and on Bajor as well. Dr. Bashir is having no luck figuring it out. They've tracked down kind of the source of the faulty replicators, and I'm forgetting a whole part too where Ro and Kira were caught by one of her old friends who was a scumbag. They get sold into the black market. While they're in the black market, they find Vera's soul, who she had a small part in this too, where she was trying to kind of make good and find the dude that sold her the bad replicators so that she could help to solve the virus. Anyway, they get her out of the black market. They, of course, escape, and they kick a ton of butt in the process. Lots of really good action scenes with them as well. And again, it's just fun to see their banter back and forth, and then their kind of growing respect for each other as they go throughout the book here. So anyway, they eventually get to the top of the food chain, okay? And it turns out to be basically a member of the council, right? And as soon as they get to this guy, they start kind of threatening him and stuff, and he's acting really calm. And then Vera Saul snaps and kind of goes off on him and starts choking him, and he's still acting really calm. They pull her off of him, and then the guy just straight up jumps out the window. And it turns out he was infected with the stuff, and he did not want to wait to die, so he just jumped out the window, right? And that's the end of that guy. But anyway, they made it all the way to the top, and the kind of the point in the whole theme is that everybody's kind of corrupt, and it's kind of everybody's fault what happened, because nobody's accountable anymore. Everybody's kind of doing what they can do for themselves, right? But the cure for the virus in the end is found through Dax, who finally, after she's told that Miles' daughter is sick, has a breakthrough as to why she's been so absent-minded throughout this whole book. Basically, she's been kind of neglecting her duties, kind of staring off into space, and it's revealed that her first host had a daughter who died of a plague, which was similar to this. And she remembers it, and she remembers the cure, and through her memory, and then what Cisco and Quark and Ro and Kira all found out, they put that all together. Dr. Bashir creates a cure. Miles seeds the cure into the Bajoran atmosphere, and you have this kind of lovely scene at the end where he flies down to meet his family, and he runs out to get him in the rain, and like everyone's like, "Are we gonna be okay?" And he tells them, "Yay, everyone's gonna be fine," just very lovely, happy ending, right? You have a fun little spot too where Quark, who arranged a little bit of a dubious shipment there when he was on Methyltrantos, gets caught in the end by Odo and Cisco, but they agreed to waive the jail time, but he still has to pay all the duty for his items that he brought in. So, again, a mix of fun, action, and just, all your favorite characters from Deep Space Nine with Ro Laren thrown in there as well, just to add to the fun. So, what else can I say? Nothing. Deep Space Nine, Wrath of the Prophets, another wonderful book. Glad to have read it. Glad to be here talking about it. And I encourage you to go out and read this book or any other Star Trek book or any book that you want today. Now, go read a book. Anyway, my friends, live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.